What is going on, Browns fans? Welcome back to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Santa. Today, we are bringing you a preview of the Week 2 matchup for your Cleveland Browns against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Both teams 0-1 to start out the season. Both teams playing a little bit underwhelmingly to their season kind of predictions and whatnot, but Jacksonville taking a loss to Miami. The Browns taking a loss to Dallas. Both teams looking for a bounce back. The good thing about the Browns loss is that it came from a different conference team in the NFC. So luckily for us, all good there. But Jeff, other than all that, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I think an interesting factoid for the week, which I didn't even really go and confirm myself, but I just saw it on X and I just believed it because that's how the world works. And I don't know why somebody would put this out if it wasn't true, but Stefanski has never started 0-2 as our head coach. So that's interesting. There's first times for everything. I don't know. I'm not too certain. I don't know how you can be certain after what we saw last week. Now you're going on the road. You got some injury concerns. They do as well. I mean, the injury list is already extensively long. We're going to talk about it, actually, if you want to get into it. But, I mean, people on the IR, let's just hit that up real quick.
Absolutely. And obviously a lot of names for the Browns here that you'll see. But
always
on the flip side, you'll see a couple of names for the Jaguars. Obviously, we'll go right to the Myles Garrett one. Obviously, did not practice today, but from what Jeff and I have seen, we'll go to that tweet later. But it doesn't seem too serious as of right now. Obviously, a lot of the offensive linemen, Joel Bitonio, Jack Conklin, Nick Harris, let's see if anyone, Jed Wills, all.
Wills actually practice. Amazing.
Yeah, had designations. Wills didn't practice on Tuesday, though, so we'll see how that all pans out. That was obviously a huge factor on Sunday for us. I think the interesting part about your opening, Jeff, was just, the world might not be falling down or anything, but you can't get much worse than what last week was for the Browns. So hopefully, we'll see how that turns out. But getting some of these guys back would be great. Obviously, you have a couple of other Zadarius Smith with a did not practice. Jeff, I don't know if we've heard any news on that one.
Nope.
And then obviously we didn't get a chance to go into it yet, but a couple guys on IR, most notably Juan Thornhill, with that safety position just not being a position of, I don't know. I don't want to call it not strength because Grant Delpit's been great recently, and Thornhill's been serviceable a little bit more so than I think maybe the last safety that we have in JJ3. But, that all being said, I don't think a lot of these are going to be guys who sit out or anything. It's just one of those typical, you're getting the offensive lineman rest. You're getting your big name guys rest, the defensive lineman and whatnot. We'll see about Zadarius Smith. Other than that, getting Wills back would be huge. And hopefully you got to believe that if Conklin was like a game time decision or a game day decision last week, he's got to play this week, which again in itself would be a huge boost. So
here's the absolute nonsense, though. That's the biggest nonsense looking at this report is that Conklin won't be available for some magical reason. He'll be practicing all week, still be out. The only person I'm really thinking is probably not going to play, obviously, and I think Stefanski already said it, is Njoku. He's probably not going to play this week. They're not going to put him on the IR, so that seems good. Maybe he'll be ready for week 3. But yeah, Thornhill to IR. Our top 3 edges on the injury report Thursday, excuse me. Absolutely amazing how that has happened all of a sudden. Obviously, it doesn't sound like the Myles Garrett issue is a concern, over from Ian Rappaport saying not that big of a deal, which is good. I mean, it's just interesting to follow all this stuff, especially if you have stuff kind of floating around the organization and, is the locker room, what's the I can't believe we're talking about the locker room after week 1. Absolutely unbelievable. But here we are. And I guess here we'll go from here.
Jeff, you know what? I actually wanted to ask you about that injury report that you brought up.
Yes.
David Njoku, obviously he's out. Do you know who the backup for him is?
Akins.
Do you know who the backup for Akins is?
Some guy we just signed. I don't know his name.
Some guy that is currently not listed on the depth chart. That's why I was just picking that out.
We signed it. I'm almost certain we signed a tight end, but I don't know what his name was. He was not somebody. They had. Well, we signed Kadarius Toney, so I mean, we don't need a tight end, I guess. We'll just
run the end.
We'll just run. Yeah, we'll just run wide receiver sets, and we'll be fine. Everything will be okay. We don't want to go get Irv Smith, and we definitely didn't want to go get a left tackle for week 1, and we didn't. You want to know what is here? All right, but I don't want to get too off the rails, but the more I think about this, you lose Callahan. You knew your left tackle situation was going to be concerning. All right, let's just put those all as all right, you missed that. Now, here's what I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, and I know this is going to be a little bit controversial. What did you do all offseason at the running back position? You could have traded for somebody better than Jerome Ford. And this is nothing against Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford played good last year. It's not last year anymore. Things have changed. Coaches have moved on. The offensive line is different composition-wise and health-wise. What did you do all offseason with, we're going to make all this money. We're going to restructure this. We're going to restructure that. You could have – teams are willing to give up running backs if we known that from anybody. And there's always these guys floating around the league who probably can be RB1s or in a committee, and they just don't play or they share responsibility. If you knew that was – look at what the Chargers did. And at the end of the day, this just seems like – I don't know how we've had this regime together for so long, and there still just seems like these blatant holes of disconnect. Like, Barry, have you been watching the offense the last 4 years? I get it. Dorsey, we're going to the air, total revamp. Yeah, that didn't work. So, but what was the plan if that worked? Cool. Did you have a plan if that didn't work? You don't even give the ball to the running backs anyway in the first game because they're not going to be very effective. That's my whole thing of wow. I can't believe that, we just got Jerry Jeudy and we extended Dustin Hopkins and we reworked Amari's contract. And people were like, that was a good offseason. I mean, I got fooled by it too, but I didn't know it was going to be this blatant of an issue as far as the left tackle injuries. And that's what stems from it a lot. And we'll never really know until probably it's too late in the season how important Bill Callahan really was.
Absolutely. I mean, you just talk about the running back position since Stefanski's been here. Obviously, he's always had Nick Chubb. Hard to work without him. Obviously, we've seen that last season, seen it this season so far with one game. But, you even talk about the backups for Nick, and it's been Kareem Hunt, who obviously in his first 2 years, I think he was a stud for us. And even back then, way back then, we had Dearness Johnson, who – when both Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt were, banged up or dinged up a bit, as the third guy on this roster was making magic happen, and it's interesting to just kind of, go through the years and watch as, Kareem goes away. Dearness was the first to go away, to be honest. And then you watch Kareem go and you bring in Jerome last year, obviously, or 2 years ago, and then this year. And you sit him behind Chubb. He has to come in. You bring Kareem back and all that. But at the same time, like you said, Jeff, I feel like even though Jerome was good last year, he wasn't great or anything. He definitely showed he had flaws in his game and things that I thought would definitely need to be fixed by a second paired running back. And like you said, now, to be fair, Nyheim Hines is on the bench, is on technical IR right now. So, you do forget about him being kind of one of those guys who, if he was playing right now, he'd probably
be getting the ball though.
I think he definitely sees snaps before Pierre Strong would, before Deontay Foreman. I think
Hines was never their plan to we're going to play him over Ford.
He was the punt returner, kick returner. But I think at the same time though, you go through this stretch of games that you're without Nick Chubb. Obviously, you're going to be 5 games now at this point without Nick Chubb by the time he can return. And so for that, within 5 games, could you see if Nyheim Hines was a better running back, was a better back to have just back there with Deshaun in general for getting bailed out in the passing game, and someone who I just think has a better sense for what his job is back there when he's working with Deshaun. So
I'm glad you brought up Kareem, because even if you look at last year's numbers, which I pulled up very quickly here, Jerome Ford, 1,100. Jerome Ford basically as fresh as you could get besides your rookie season. He only had 12 yards from scrimmage as a rookie. He had over 1,100 last year. Good. Like you said, good, not great. But at his age of whatever, 24 years old, the prime running back years, in 17 games, he put up 1,100 yards from scrimmage. Kareem Hunt in 15 games last year at the age of 28 almost put up 500. So yes, Jerome Ford, but it wasn't like it was a 90-10 split. It was, Kareem Hunt was a serviceable player in this backfield last year. And you have nothing back there this year. You literally have nothing. Ford, he could have a good game. No one is disputing that. He could, if the offensive line puts together a good performance and you're not playing a good run defense, he could put together a 100-yard rushing game with a touchdown. I don't think anyone is saying he's like that bad, but he's really not the threat of he's not good enough to be the 1A threat. Like people thought that Tony Pollard was a 1A threat, and we found out that wasn't even the case last year. Here's what's interesting to me. This is not going to happen. Probably going to take some heat from this, but because it's untraditional. But you know what I would do this week? And like I said, it's not NFL football, but whatever. Even week 2, I'm already trying to pull different strings. Jalen Darden is 174 pounds and 5'8". Why don't you use him as a wide back this week? Why don't you run some Deebo Samuel sets with him? Why not? You didn't even want to run the ball last week, and you weren't going to get. Did we have a run that was more than?
Brought Kadarius Toney in to do that.
They might have brought Kadarius Toney in to do that, but I don't know why. What do you think our longest run was last week? I don't even know. Did we have a run over 6 yards?
No. I mean,
I don't think we had a run over 10 yards. I'm almost certain about it. That wasn't Watson. Watson might have had a 10-yard run, but I'm talking about from running backs. I can't even tell you the longest run of that game was from our running backs. That's sad. Maybe they brought in Toney to do that, but why don't you say, hey, Jalen Darden, you're the only dude who cared last week. You return punts, you return kickoffs at a above average, good clip. I liked what I saw from the kid. You're going to have to switch something up because it's not going to be, if it's same game plan, if it's same approach, same game plan, same execution, same outcome, I'm not going to know what to do with myself.
Execution has just got to be completely 180 from last week. I mean, at no point at the beginning of the game, coming out of halftime, did it ever feel like the execution of this team, offense or defense? You can talk about special teams, and I think, yes, it was probably the brightest spot of the game Sunday for us. But offensively, like, total disaster. Defensively, I think Jeff was saying it plenty, that it was lucky. We were lucky. You look at the stats for Dak and Zeke and what that score ended up being, and it could have been way worse. It could have been a lot worse.
Definitely.
And you look at it from our end, and you look at Deshaun, 53.3 completion percentage, 169 yards. Not a very good game, but like I said at the top, a lot of really bad play. Hopefully you can't go any further south, right?
Correct.
And you get a team that I think, Jeff and I talking about the first 5 games, I think Dallas and Jacksonville are your 2 toughest teams. And I think you could definitely give Dallas a little bit of a head nod as a tougher team. But you're going into week 2 against Trevor Lawrence, who I've always had issues with as an Ohio State guy, of course. But this is still a team that has high expectations, just like we do, to make the playoffs, to make a little bit of noise, and has a quarterback who, again,
paying a quarterback,
didn't play very well last week, is expecting big things. There's a lot going into this game that you could say these teams are very similar. The running backs last week for both teams did not do what was expected of them. And again, I think passing wise, same thing. It'll be an interesting game. I think for us, luckily, I don't think the Jaguars defense is nearly
correct,
talented.
Especially with some of their injuries too.
Yeah, I don't think they're nearly as talented as the Dallas Cowboys. And so hopefully you can take advantage of that, Jeff. I don't know if you still have the tweet of their corner that's going out, their number 1 corner.
I think they put him on IR. I don't even think he was on that report.
Okay, so they put their number 1 cornerback on IR.
Tyson Campbell, injured reserve, left hamstring, miss at least 4 games.
Yeah. Yep. So you're hoping that guys like Amari can get a little bit of separation now. Hopefully that Jerry Jeudy can get open a little bit more. Obviously now the tight end game where we thought Njoku was going to be really big and really heavy is going to land on all of Akins, which again has a connection going back to Houston with Watson, which is good. So, and Jeff, I don't think I got your take with John when you guys were talking, but the Elijah Moore snaps, who are we giving them to? Because they can't keep going.
Give him to Darden.
Give him to Darden.
I don't know. Where's the whole.
Tillman?
I don't know the whole like the Kadarius Toney stuff is so nonsense to me.
Right.
I'm not understanding that whatsoever because I'm only envisioning bad things happening from that. I'm only envisioning that Stefanski and Bubba Ventrone come up with some crazy plan that now he's returning everything, even though return was the last issue we had last week. 0 issues returning the football last week. Punting, we couldn't cover it. We couldn't cover returons.
I wouldn't want him bringing them back. I mean, his whole.
But what else are they going to do with him? Is he going to come out and just be like?
You have to hope. My thing is like again,
dude, it's insane.
I think a lot of it is just trying to get as much talent as you can. And trying to find who works with what. Because maybe again, I feel like this happens kind of often where Stefanski and Barry talk to each other right before the free agency period starts. And they're like, hey, what is the guy that you need to do this certain job for? And they go out and they get that guy for that certain job.
They're never healthy.
And I think Elijah Moore was supposed to be this gadget guy who was supposed to be able to do the end arounds, was supposed to do all this and that. And it just never came to fruition. And again, it didn't come into fruition with the Jets. I think now they're starting to reel back in on him and be like, all right, it's not working out the way that we thought. We still have an area of need with that like position. Like it's not even a position. It's like a scheme in his playbook that he needs a guy for, he needs a gadget guy. And maybe Tony is his thought process.
He doesn't call good gadget plays though. Like I can't believe I'm sitting here talking about how we need to do wide back with some guy who's on the practice squad or where we even got Jalen Darden even from. Maybe he was on another roster. I don't even know. I don't even know this guy's background. And I'm saying we need to do gadget trick plays in week 2 because that's how pitiful the offense was week 1. That's your first mistake. Number 2 for me, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of Andrew Berry. And it's week 2, but if you don't think general managers are like have exit plans and have, ways of thinking about how the rest of the season is going to progress, I have an update for you. They definitely do. It's week 2. Our bye week is week 10. Somebody knows officially close to without a doubt what Nick Chubb's status is. They're never going to tell us. They never will. They'll tell us, oh, he's doing good, whatever, the happiness, the joy, whatever. They'll give us all the platitudes and that's fine. That's fine. Traumatic injury. I'm not underwriting that. I'm just saying they're never going to tell us the truth. But at what point, if Jerome Ford has a stinker this week, at what point do you have to consider one of these wide receivers? And I'm talking about any of them. One of these wide receivers getting packaged with picks for a starting running back. That's actually legit, actually makes us a starting running back. Because at the end of the day, if Elijah Moore if you can't throw to Elijah Moore, Jeudy, Amari Cooper, they're not even really out there doing impactful stuff. Elijah Moore did nothing impactful last week. At least Amari Cooper was open a couple of times. At least Jerry Jeudy caught a touchdown. But at the end of the day, when are you going to be able to look and be like, all right, yep, Ford sucks. Pierre Strong, nope, and Naheem Hines not gonna cut it, and then we have to make a move from there. But we'll see, man. I mean, I think we should just get into how we feel about overall predictions here. If you want to, let's go over this really quickly, though.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I think with everything that is going on in the background and what happened in week 1, obviously there is a lot of that doom and gloom and. We've seen it before in the offseason, in the season, preseason, whatnot. I mean, we know all about it. But again, week 2, week 1, it's so early on in the season to be like, it's all over. But at that point,
yep,
I think people are just very much they understand the importance of the said position. And I think that, for a lot of people, there's a lot to flip around here. There's a lot to, hope that this week Deshaun has a bounce back game, that he doesn't play any worse than he did last week, and that the rest of the team comes out and plays very well. I mean, outside of the noise that's in the background and everything. This team in general, Schwartz needs to be better. Ken Dorsey needs to be better. Kevin Stefanski needs to be better. Myles Garrett needs to be better.
Yep.
There's a lot of guys not named Deshaun Watson who need
Yep.
to be better in this upcoming game to make it this kind of 50-50 split. Because, again, just because week one goes the way week one goes, it doesn't take away the expectations that I had for this team.
Yep.
Do I think that I got to temper it a little bit? Maybe. But at the same time, what if week two is a complete opposite ball of last week? You know, what if we throw for 400 yards, rush 100, and win this game by 30-some points?
If we throw for 400 yards, I will do I'll do
a backflip.
things.
I'll do a backflip.
But how do you call this game? I can't. I don't know if I could sit here and
than like 20 points at this point.
I can't. I don't.
17-10 win is like something realistic.
See, I'm the actual opposite of that because I think it is going to be more high scoring than last week, but I don't know. Maybe that's where I'm just delusional that it's going to be high scoring because I don't know if I could
need it.
Both these teams need it. Both these teams are going to be hungry for a win. Jacksonville's at home. Fans are going to be hyped. Home opener for them, which didn't play into any effect with us, obviously, but we've played them good, I would say, as of recent memory, if my memory serves me correctly. But can I actually sit here and tell our listeners that we're going to win this game? I actually don't know.
I feel like every year I come on here and every week I'm almost like, yeah, it's a Browns win. Unless it's a team like Kansas City or San Francisco. Like then it's like, yeah, it's probably a loss or if injuries are coming into play. But this is, I think like this is year 4 or 5 of this for us. And at this point, after what I saw in week one, I'm going to go like a steadily 24-17 Jaguars win. And that's going to probably be like, I think that's got to be like the like most sensible win-loss prediction that I've had, just because at this point, I don't know how to call this team or how to call the other team because it is only week 2 and both teams have potential, but at the same time, they've shown their floor already, I think, and maybe not Jacksonville, but I think we've definitely seen close to our floor.
All right, I'm going to keep the score a bit closer to the medium because I do agree with you that I kind of might be delusional that we might not score points. Give me 24-23 Browns.
Oh,
can't believe it. I can't believe it. I'm done predicting them to win though if they lose this game. I'm not going to be able to function if we go 0-2. I just can't do it. There's not good stats about teams making the playoffs who go 0-2. 0-3 is even worse. 0-4, the stats are it's close to very statistically unlikely.
Right. I think that again, does Jacksonville have a good quarterback? I think they have a quarterback that
mid
is on the same level as ours on a bad day as he is on a good day. And when you have quarterbacks like that, again, I think I separate like the top 5 and maybe it's even smaller grouping now, like top 3, top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL are like a huge step above the rest. Because when you have quarterbacks like Deshaun, when you have quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence, who are up and down players, it's tough to get a read on what you're going to get week to week as of right now.
I'm going to be honest with you before you wrap up with us here. If this game is super lackluster offensively in the first half, but we're still in arm's reach, will they go away from Watson?
You think like put him on the bench and move to Winston?
Correct. If it's like 10-3 and we have like 50 yards again and Watson is like 6 for 14 with a pick.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like you're sending a signal, I think. And I don't know that that's necessarily true because I want to go back in my mind and think that there's been a moment where that's been other teams have done that, you know, like
correct.
Think of New England with Mac Jones, all those times and Bailey Zapp, like they've done that. There have been plenty of other teams that have started a quarterback, benched that quarterback.
Our situation's different though, a lot different.
It is. And I think the reason why I'm leaning no is for the obvious reason is that you do that. And I think you just send the signal that it's more likely than not over, especially with, again, the noise that is in the background. But
right. Now hold on here. Hold on.
I feel like you're trying to pigeonhole me into something.
No, I'm not. I'm actually genuinely curious because it's something that I think. All right, let me follow up before you hit us with before you hit us with the outro here. Let me follow this up. Let's say just that decision is something that can be made, but regardless of the outcome, who has the biggest say in that outcome? Haslam, Barry, or Stefanski?
Well, God, if Haslam has any say so on a in the middle of a game, fuck our lives.
No, maybe not in the middle of the game, but
I understand what you're saying.
Pregame, Haslam's like wink, nod to Barry, like, hey, you're riding with him, and then Barry's like wink, nod to Stefanski. Not like Haslam's making a call mid game.
I hear you. Hypothetical, of course.
But what if Stefanski's like? What if Stefanski's like, hey, if the closed doors, the quietest, the darkest doors in Berea, just behind closed doors? What if he's looking at Barry and like, hey, if we're sucking this week, I'm putting Winston in, and Barry's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that.
If I had to guess between the three of them, the most likely would definitely be Haslam at this point. I think Haslam wants out of this. I think second most likely is just Kevin, because he's in the most of the fray here. Think about it. So
you think the Haslams want out of it? You think they're admitting mistake?
I don't
know if they could do that.
Well, here's the thing. Luckily for them, I think so much of the heat was towards Barry and Stefanski that now they could probably do it and take whatever shellacking they get because they're going to build a dome at some point.
Why do they care? They're billionaires. Who they don't care?
Exactly.
They don't really care. That's right. That's right. But what if Haslam is saying, here's my thing. I think that here's my most likely scenario. The Haslams are like, nope, just play him. Wink, nod. We've made this decision. We're not going to bench him. We're just going to try to get rid of him. Void his contract, or we'll just totally get rid of him. I mean, has a person with fully guaranteed money ever been cut? Am I missing anything? Am I?
Wilson.
Oh yeah, we just had one. Okay, see, brain not very good, but the second most.
First of all, talk about the worst deal ever made. Let's just make that the one.
That's what I'm saying. That's the funniest part. And does the Watson
deal? Dead money. That's dead money. And there's a chance for ours.
I'm going to be straight up honest with you. We see a guy's deal in the first 5 weeks who might be worse than the Watson deal. His name is Daniel Jones. I get it. Is the consensus right now that the Watson money is completely overspent and it's a sunk cost right now, and it was a mistake? I think you could say that's the consensus right now. I don't see how you make a good argument against that. But the worst deal ever, we've seen two worst deals before and after his deal have been done. It's only if this was not the Browns, if another franchise did this, we would not be hearing shit about this. I promise you.
Well, here's the thing. Ours, there's a little grace room that I give Andrew Berry because what they were going for, unfortunately, wasn't what they got. They had something.
Correct.
Now, New York knew what they had, and they still gave Daniel Jones an extension, that's crazy. Denver, same dealio as us, but you kind of give up a lot more and you don't get the money back. That's a little bit of an out. But Here's my thing. Final thing about this little hypothetical. My thing with Stefanski and why I just think he's ready to do it is because he's been ready to do it ever since he got here. And he's had success with every second string quarterback to a degree,
literally,
in a positive fashion. And let me preference this with, I don't like Jameis Winston. Do I think he's better than PJ Walker and DTR? Sure. I think he's definitely not as good as Jacoby Brissett. But I put him in the same realm as he could probably do as much or more than Case Keenum did, but also hurt us more than what Case Keenum would.
True.
It's kind of one of those things where what sword do you want to die on today? You want to die on the chance that Jameis throws you a 70-yard bomb to Amari, or do you want to die on the chance that he throws? He's definitely
definitely younger Jacoby, because Keenum was just going to go out there and not do anything stupid, but he was never going to win you any games.
Right.
But yeah, Winston was like Jacoby, a little bit more amplified, because Winston could Dude, you think Winston couldn't go out there and do 2 touchdowns, 300 yards? He absolutely could.
Dude could sail the ball for sure.
He could have 2-3 interceptions though too.
That's the issue. And who knows with his LASIK surgery and all that jazz. But I will always just laugh. I'll say
you just can't take it seriously as a person.
He's a funny ass dude. But yeah, you can't take him serious. So all right. So Jeff has it 24-23 Browns. I have it 17-24 Jaguars. We're hoping for that. Jeff, I feel like Jeff has just been more close to the point than I have in predictions just since we started this. But I think Jeff called a smaller scoring game last week and calling a higher scoring game this week, which I think is very possible with both these teams. They have weapons. They have guys that can go out and get the ball. But yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting one. You come out of this 0-2, but you gotta keep the Kevin Stefanski saying in your head of we're just trying to go 0-1 this week. So
1-0, 1-0, not 0.
You know what? Thursday,
oh my God, we're doomed. We're cooked.
It's been a week, so 0-1 though. Goodness, Justin. 1-0. 1-0 is what you want to go.
Amazing foreshadowing.
The Browns. We're gonna come back to this one and highlight that moment.
I'm gonna clip it as soon as we're done.
Yeah, as soon as the game ends on Sunday, that's gonna be rolling. I guarantee it. But 0-1, 1-0. We're trying to go 1-0, but we want to thank you all for being here this long. We want to thank you guys for participating. Make sure you guys are commenting down below. What do you think the end of the game will be? A Browns win or a loss? What will the score be? Any particular stats, anyone that you have in fantasy that you need to do well in this game. And with that being said, make sure you guys are subscribing, hitting that bell notification so you guys are getting the updates when we have Browns content, Cavs content, and whatnot going on here. And with that all being said, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.